Boyer Family Forestry. It's 1980, first year of marriage, both of us in our 20s. My new partner, Nina, and I went right to work planting trees, Douglas fir seedlings at Porter. 43 years later, still together on our tree farm and still planting trees, practicing sustainable forestry. My dad passed on his passion for growing trees. He bought logged-off land in the late 1950s and lived long enough to harvest a crop and earn public recognition along the way. In 1976, my grandpa, Morris Boyer, sold me 20 acres of logged-off land. Dad helped Nina and me get started, bringing up a manure spreader full of Douglas fir seedlings. Our family history in Porter begins in the 1870s and runs through 6 generations to the present, 2023. Here's my great-great-grandfather, Abraham Boyer. He was Captain J.M. Weatherwax's master mechanic. Think of Aberdeen's Weatherwax High School. J. Weatherwax logged up Porter Creek, building a splash dam to move logs down to the Chehalis River. According to the book, they tried to cut it all. This family photo, taken in 1985, shows 5 of our 6 generations. Our Porter Tree Farm overlooks the Chehalis River Valley. Our kids grew up here. It consists of 4 parcels totaling 51 acres. My Uncle Dick Boyer sold us our Porter home site, telling us, grow a crop of kids. Here's that crop of kids, Rachel, Kelly, and Bryce, a crop we have not thinned. It's not eligible for NRCS or DNR cost sharing. Our forestry business is named New Growth Ventures, growing trees since 1978. We own 4 tree farm properties, 1 at Porter, 1 in Pierce County, and 2 in East Lewis County on Kiona Road and Klein Road. We bought forest land where our adult children had settled so that their kids could grow up on a tree farm, even if our children didn't come home to roost in Grays Harbor. Here's Nina at Porter, overlooking the Chehalis River Valley from our noble fir grove. This is our Porter view during the winter. Our tree farm from the McKenna Forest Reserve features an approach with a view of Mount Rainier. Here, our Kiona Road tree farm near Randall displays an early spring rainbow. Our Klein Road LLC. All family members share ownership of this 37 acres, our most biodiverse property with abundant wildlife. We are American Tree Farm System certified and lifetime members of WFFA, including the next generation. Forest land management. We manage for wood, water, wildlife, and recreation. The WFFA way. We'll start with wood, natural sustainable forest products. Planted in 1980, our Doug fir monoculture began suffering from spreading root rot. Choosing to limit our losses, we clear cut at 36 years, sooner than preferred. We harvested 10 acres of those trees. Loading up, hauling out. This area had some older alder, cedar, and fir in it. Note the heart-shaped loop road between the machines. Same location 6 years later, growing western red cedar. Our 2018 harvest. 7 more acres at Porter, inherited from Dad. A load of Doug fir left to grow during the last clear cut in the 1950s. Some were oversized logs. And a load of western red cedar. Reforestation. It's a process that takes time, like 40 years and often more. Reforestation starts with site prep. Back in the 70s and 80s, we used a cat tractor. Like father, like son, a dog or daughter with a kitten on our lap. Burning begins early with an excavator. Burning slush piles can be risky and stressful, yet it is an adrenaline rush which I personally enjoy. Getting hot and even hotter. Final prep before planting. My mom and dad planted together way back then in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, just as so many forestland families do today. Planting is most fun when multi-generational. That is Nina's mom, in her 90s, with her planting gloves and a grub hoe. We have planted in all conditions. Sister-in-law Roberta, stepping in and helping out. By age 70, a tree farmer's best friend may be a leaf, often essential at the end of a long day. Beauty to behold, a western white pine planted in a burn spot. Look at that new growth. Deer browse protection. In the 70s, we used scented dryer sheets versus today, on the right, Vexar tubes. We have planted more than 6,000 cedar trees at Porter, all in browse protectors. 12 acres in 2017 and 18. For healthier forests, we're experimenting with a mixed species unit of western white pine, western red cedar, Doug fir, red alder, and Sitka spruce. This photo shows 4 years growth. Mechanical control of competing vegetation at Porter is mostly Himalayan blackberry. Chemical control of bigleaf maple. We apply a basal spray. Where possible, it saves time spraying from a tractor. New growth leaders. Our longest leader in year 2022 measured 66 inches, a Douglas fir. Free to grow. This lodgepole pine on the left has 34 inches of new growth. Dad would call it above the deer. I will add above the competing vegetation. This is a 30-year-old Doug fir monoculture. We plan to give this 10 to 20 more years, unless root rot spreads. Here's root rot in that Douglas fir monoculture stand at Porter. A small thinned red alder patch. No root rot problem here. Creative forest products. I love products made from often unloved wood. A chunk of cedar left on the landing can become a flower box and address signpost. Burn pile cedar log, salvaged 4 years later. Make cedar roof ridge cap. From thinned Doug fir peeled poles, Kelly and I made this hangout shack, still standing 21 years later. Here, Austin is turning a cedar slab into a tabletop. Chris and Kelly made this structure on the right I call the cathedral. Danny Van Orman's DVO specialties. Some big leaf maple trees are figured and can become beautiful handcrafted guitars. This one made in Elma by Donnie. Unfortunately, none of my maple trees made the grade. Wood as art. We thank Rory and Patty Vance for making this therapy sign and gnome figure. Also note the slab pile siding on the woodshed. Trash or treasure often depends on your imagination. A big bow in a tree, forming a log the mill won't buy, becomes a bridge across a creek in a creative person's eye. Firewood can also make beautiful bowls. Garbage or gold. Our daughters show their creativity, turning a broken chunk of cedar into this heartfelt photo. Managing for biodiversity. Here's an inventory of native vegetation. We are striving to maintain the natural flora. In goal, a healthy, biologically diverse ecosystem. Here is a sampling. Fireweed, a great pollinator plant. Trilliums, one of Rachel's favorite native flowers. Currant, salmonberry, devil's club, and thistle. The goldfinch uses a late summer silk on thistle to line its nest. Wild dogwood and more. Wild bitter cherry. Wild hazelnut. Bees love this early season pollinator. Wild mushrooms. Fungi. Some are edible. Next is water, the source of all life. This is Cougar Canyon Creek, a seasonal stream running across our Porter property. The small forest landowner 20-acre exemption allowed a 29-foot buffer for logging. Same creek. This contiguous FPA harvest required a 114-foot buffer for watershed protection. We have applied for FREP compensation. On the right are estimated 140-foot tall Doug firs in the RMZ. Kelly Creek feeds the wildlife pond on our Klein Road Forest Reserve. This owner-created pond with island provides habitat for fish, otter, beaver, Canada geese, and more. Water attracts wildlife. Here's an elk antler, Nina's discovery of the day. So let's look at wildlife. Habitat is important to the little critters shown here. That's a rubber boa snake in Chris's hand. We preserve habitat trees and create new snags as well. On the right is a freshly girdled red alder. Here's bird watching enjoyed with longtime friends. A spotted towhee, a willow flycatcher. We have a growing list of bird sightings, and we continue adding. A sampling of other wildlife, a black-tailed deer. Our trail cameras caught a territorial fight. A coyote after dark. A bobcat looking into the camera. A cougar on the prowl. Elk on the trail we have nicknamed the Wildlife Highway. A black bear on the move. An unidentified creature. I was warned everything east of Morton was pretty wild. Where is wildlife biologist Ken Beavis when needed? Wildlife issues. There are several challenging animal resident issues. We have black bear damage, porcupine problems too. Beavers have fallen trees, built dams and lodges. Squatters without shame. Mouse girdling, more bear, deer, and mountain beaver damage. Recreation. Much more than recreation, living on the tree farm is our family's way of life. My dad wrote to his granddaughter, Kelly, "Don't ever forget where you came from. Porter Creek, Marcy Creek, the tree farm, the pigs, the dogs, the goats, the horses, all beautiful memories to keep forever." Our tree farms provide plenty of space for dogs, and we have had lots of dogs. A dog for every kid, and a kid for every dog. Each of our children got their own dog at age 8. Our menagerie. Many have been rescue shelter dogs. Bryce learned bird hunting with Kuski. All 3 kids raised and showed pigs at the Grays Harbor County Fair. Nina realized her dream of owning a horse. Rachel once remarked, "Growing up at Porter was an idyllic childhood." Bryce learned to fish for cutthroat trout and drive a stick shift pickup. Rachel made moss and stick forts in the woods. The tree farm provided a playground for friends in those teenage years as well. More recently, skeet shooting. Tree farm or deer farm? Note the homemade hunting shack in transit. Nina tending her hives. Blackberry Hill Apiary, another new growth venture. Honey harvest, extracting honey and bottling the final product to share with family and friends. Kelly grows flowers on her tree farm property and home in Randall. Berry picking, little wild blackberries and blackcaps. Leads to berry pie. Nina uses Mom's recipe, and I confess I always look for the biggest piece. A tree farm setting can make a beautiful wedding. Life skills learned on the tree farm. Both our girls worked for DNR fighting fires, already capable of running chainsaws and driving a stick. Cutting and climbing. Chris enjoys the outdoors, a man of many talents. Small forest land owner assistance. There's an eager young new crop of partners from the state DNR and federal NRCS. We also utilize the local conservation district and the Washington State University Extinction Forestry Program. Our clone red alder research project is in collaboration with Wazoo's Puyallup Research Center. We have dedicated part of our tree farm as an outdoor science lab. And there's Elma's High School Ag and FFA program. We have partnered with numerous entities. Mutual education, the WFFA way, is often through tree farm tours. People sharing their passion, growing trees. I have learned there are many different forestry philosophies, programs, practices, and yes, politics. However, I believe this diversity of people and sharing of ideas make us stronger. Honoring the past. Greek proverb, a society grows great when old men plant trees in whose shade they shall never sit. I have great reverence for our tree farm predecessors, those that led the way, many recorded in the book, Stewards of the Land. Memorial trees. We pay tribute to these tree farmers whose spirit we carry forward and pass on to future generations. Passing on intergenerational values. At age 14, Kelly expressed her values in this poem to my dad, her papa. The tree farm is a part of me. Personal influences. Warren Buffett once said, much of what we become in life depends on whom we choose to admire and emulate. My reading list. And thinking has evolved over the years. From reading the nurturing philosophy of Aldo Leopold in a Sand County Almanac to the greedy, exploitative Grace Harbor timber barons of Ed Van Sickles, they tried to cut it all, has led me to today, practicing our own family's customized form of conservation in forestry. I'm optimistic about the future of family forestry. There are young families. Here's a new generation of tree farmers, our Randall neighbors, James and Annie Kuntz, with kids Junior and Orion. Partnering with the Grace Harbor Community Foundation, our family sponsors forestry student scholarships. Here are two recent recipients. Their enthusiasm is contagious. Kids learning. Here's Rachel teaching her 5th grade students the importance of water quality for salmon on the Nisqually River. And planting trees for watershed health. Hands-on learning, outdoors. Teachers can influence the next generation. Future foresters. On this Nisqually Land Trust Education Project, Rachel has 3rd graders out again planting more trees for their own and our planet's future. I will end with a nurse stump analogy. Well into his 80s, my dad told me one day he was feeling like an old nurse stump, slowly dying and decaying away. Wow! It suddenly dawned on me. My father's legacy, his nourishing influence, was in fact the invisible driving force, inspiring, guiding, and sustaining me in the Boyer way of family forestry as I cared for the forest land entrusted to me. Recalling Dad's message to his granddaughter Kelly again, don't ever forget. With gratitude, I thank the following people for their contributions to this presentation.